Hey everyone! For this 2024, I figured that it would be great to end the year with a 2025 �プ𝚘𝚔 specifically for the planners that I plan to use next year. And I wanted to show you because I haven't really talked about planners in general and how much my planning system and setup has shifted towards mid-year. I have done a mid-year review, so if you would like to check that out, I also will link it down below. But today I want to share really more of the thought processes behind why I chose specific planners and why I've ended up kind of shifting my direction into different systems. Like, why do I have a plotter? Why do I have a random Leuchtturm notebook here? Let me explain to you what I do on a regular basis. So I'm Abbey. If you're new here, I'm Abbey, an artist, author, and creator. So the bulk of the work I do is creator work, and that consists of Patreon, Instagram, YouTube, so social media. And then I also have workshops that I do from time to time. And with the variety of work I do, it's really hard for me to figure out a very set system of what planners I use every year. So every year I have a different set of planners. I'm always constantly finding the one that really satisfies my needs and also gets the job done and allows me to work on a system that really basically moves me from one task to another. And with that being said, I am an analog girly in a sense that I do a lot of brainstorming. Maybe like 50% of the week, I'm just thinking of content ideas. I'm brainstorming on how to write scripts. I'm doing graphics. And apart from that being a digital task in itself, I really, really value the presence of it having to live in a specific notebook. So that's why I still keep my planners with me. So I do have a Notion dashboard, I would say, workspace. So what I do on Notion is from the ideas and plans that come from this set of notebooks, which I'll show you later on, they kind of get migrated to Notion so that I can plot it, especially if it's a project that I need someone else to look at it. Then it becomes more visible on Notion and it feels more real on Notion. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I kind of organize my ideas and thoughts. So at the start of the year, I had thought that I would be really diligent in using this MUJI planner. So this is a vertical layout, and what a vertical layout does is you have the list of to-dos right here, and every day I do have a set of to-dos. And for a time, it really made sense for me. I didn't actually use the time frame here, but it was more like I need a running list of what I have to do every single day. And what I noticed is that the way that I do my tasks are similar to how I do bullet journaling back in the day, where it's like, oh, if you have a task, if you're finished, you cross it out, and then if you want to migrate it, it's similar to the bullet points that you use for bullet journaling. I always migrate it. The problem was, if I wrote something on Monday and then I need to migrate it to the next day, sometimes it'll drag along to Friday and I don't really get it done. So in some way, it's annoying because then I know I'm not accountable to doing the task, but sometimes I overestimate the amount of tasks I do in a day as well. So I'm not able to see things as they are. And my main concern also was I needed to have more space to write notes, and I didn't really know where to do that because of the limited space I had. So for example, at the start of the week, I usually write my to-dos here, and then I kind of just see where it goes, and then I realize oh my gosh, it's just so full. I don't have any space to really think about what I have to do, or if I need to add something that I have to work on, it doesn't really get any space here, and for me that was really not ideal. So sometime in I think I finished this up maybe until July, because July was probably one of my busiest months, because in August I was gone the whole month. I was just in the US. So with that and the way, when I got back, I actually just stopped using it. And I realized that it didn't really work in my favor for that reason. Planners are really interesting because you always think oh, it'll work out, and then you realize wait, I need more space. And so I was thinking, what could be a nice remedy for the lack of space? And then I was looking through I didn't want to buy a new planner for sure. So I was and also this was around I want to say like October, I was like, okay, I need to pull together some things from my own stash. And then I realized that I had to comb a Leuchtturm1917 notebook from Shop Object, which I got for free with my fancy engraving right here of my name. And then I just stuck in a Traveler's Hotel sticker. A couple of years ago, before I got into planners, I actually would also just use a dotted journal and I would write my to-dos regardless, because I also don't really need the monthlies. It was more like I really need a space to write everything. And also that includes all the ideas I have, projects, errands, and I figured that this would be the best solution. So when I first, use it, they do have page numbers. I don't know if that makes sense, but somehow I will archive some of them or index some of them if I find them useful. But right now it's more like, when I started, I put in like October, like things that I was working on, and I just needed a space, like a dashboard, an analog dashboard to write out things like these. So for example, I cook a lot, so I sometimes write all the food that I have in my pantry and kind of like, okay, what dishes can I make for that week? And I have to meal prep earlier so that I know that, oh, if it's a busy day, I can't cook, I have to just heat food and stuff like that. But usually I have this kind of overview of like this week, and what the this week is really just a rundown of every single thing I have to work on. And this is also in conjunction with, I have a content calendar page on Notion, and what that does is I already have the deadlines for all my Patreon stuff, my YouTube stuff, or Instagram, for example, and then I just pull it from there and then I write them here, and then I kind of think about everything else that I have to do for like admin. Here and there, I would do things like week at a glance, and I know it would be easier to have this with like a weekly view, but I don't see the point of it, because what I do is every day I write like my day and then like the running to-do list. Like, I don't think structure is important to me. What's important to me is I remember what I have to do and I actually do it. And here and there when I take classes, for example, this is like, I think these are like some classes I took for how to work on a Skillshare class, because my Skillshare class is coming soon. So I needed to kind of take notes. So sometimes I also do it here, and it's nice because then I have this entire notebook to just refer back to. Generally, that's how I approach this, and it's not the most organized, but I think it works in my favor. And I also don't really use fountain pens for this. I mostly use a gel pen, and it's just the easiest way to kind of get things done. And the A5 size, I think, is the perfect size for this endeavor. I would say I bring this here and there if I'm working outside, but not all the time because it's heavy. But for sure, this never comes with me when I'm traveling, just because it's really meant for like desk use. And I would say that carrying it over to 2025, I'm still gonna be using this. So this one didn't work out, but I'm glad I found a replacement, and I think it's gonna be working in my favor. And I don't have any goals for it. I just need to figure out what happens after I finish it, which won't probably take like 6 months or something, depending on how much projects I work on and how much notes I take. On to my personal planner. I really tried my best to love using the Hobonichi Weeks. I think I have come to the point of acceptance that it really doesn't work for me. So I got this Hobonichi Weeks in March when I got home from the Philippines. This is the Moomin edition, and it's actually not filled that much. I feel bad about it. This is probably one of the few journals or planners that I really didn't really finish up to the brim. But it is what it is. And okay. I have to hide that. That's like my ID photo, so I need that actually for my residence permit renewal. One thing that I want to share that I feel like is useful was that the entire year I decided to track all the workouts I did, which is really impressive because this means that I've done like 1/3 of the year, like I've been working out, and that's not something common. So this is the year that I really invested in my health, and it's been really beneficial. I feel like emotionally, I've also been really more stable mentally, and then physically I feel a bit stronger. So yeah, I used the yearly index to track my workouts because there was nothing else I could do. I thought at first I would do like a, what do you say, like steps tracker, and I was like, I don't want to write values every day. I also thought like, oh, should I write that I did yoga, I did strength class, I did spin, and I was like, I just need to know if I worked out that day because that really informs most of why I feel good that day, which is most of the time I really do. So that's that. The monthlies, they helped a bit, you know, because I used to plan a lot of my schedules here, but oh my gosh, I never even wrote after March. Something about the narrow layout of this and like it being not, the monthlies being at the start of the Hobonichi Weeks and not like, I prefer it to be like a monthly spread and then you go to the weeks, you know? But this one is all at the start, so it's just hard for me to navigate because maybe I also never used a Hobonichi Weeks consistently enough to know that I should write something at the start, you know? I've made a video on all the Hobonichi Weeks I've used in the past, but the Hobonichi Weeks that I've used are not necessarily all planners. They were more memory keeping, and then I tried to convert it in some way, so it always shape shifts, and I think I never really found a proper use for it, and I think that's where I kind of got stuck. So let's go to March so you can kind of see where I started. And what I did was, you know, in March I was in Manila, and that meant I had to do a lot of errands and life admin stuff. And so that's the one that kind of populated the right-hand side of the spreads. You know, for a time it did work. I was mostly writing tasks here, not necessarily with work, but like a mix of work and life errands. So actually when I saw that Job was doing, Job of Job's journal, he was doing like the plotter setup where it's like, there's one part here and then there's one part here and it's like extending. In theory I could also do that for the Hobonichi Weeks, but then I saw his setup and I was like, that's actually very smart, because then there could be like personal life stuff here and then work stuff here, you know? So I was like, okay, that seems really like a possible option. My main thing is because I understand how much I travel in a year for work and for personal reasons, I didn't know if it would make sense to actually still bring a Hobonichi Weeks, especially if I'm gone for a really long time. Like, I don't know if this can exist in my backpack in conjunction with a planner, a journal, a travel journal, my content creator gear, my laptop, my iPad, and I was like, okay, this is just getting a bit out of hand. But I think things happened in the right time as well, because when I went to SoCal, I didn't know that I would be gifted a plotter. So this was gifted by Plotter USA, Design Phil. Thank you so much, Design Phil. And Job told me to try it out. So I was like, okay. He's like, okay, you can set it up and then figure out if you like the system, find a way to kind of experiment with it, and then get back to me after a month. So I think, I don't remember what happened, but like the first time I used this was July, like really halfway in 2024. And let's go through the exterior really quick. This is a Plotter Narrow in Pueblo band. A lot of people have been asking. It's from Job. It's from Knox, Knox. It's a Japanese brand. And I also have this uni pen. It's great. I just love it. It's not slim, you know. Right now I haven't really decorated my plotter. It's very functional. It's not so much of an aesthetic decision. So we have the weeklies right here, which we'll go through later on. I have another divider here. This is my if I'm out and about and I need to write to-dos, they're here. This is the pen holder, and it's very compact. So the biggest difference obviously of the weeks and the plotter is because of the ring system, which is such a breakthrough concept for me, you don't have to put a lot of pages, you know? Here we have a week view, and every day it has its own row. And what I love about it is it extends to the end, you know, compared to this where it's like it cuts off here and then you have this big space. So what I've done is on this side, there's a division here, and the division informs my schedule for the day. The red one is my workouts because I'm a workout girly. I like to work out. I need to put it in my calendar. So you'll see that it's winter, so I've been trying to do my workouts earlier in the day so I can get it done. And then the black text on the bottom is either a meeting or a call or a meetup. And you're probably wondering, Abby, why don't you put this on Google Calendar? Yes, I put them on Google Calendar, but I think I need to see it on my planner before it gets on Google Calendar. And also, not all my calls are on Google Calendar because some people prefer other apps. So then I don't really use Google Calendar extensively unless someone invites me to the call, you know? So from there, this section here, I figured, you know, it's not that big of a space. So then this is where I kind of plan stuff out for my personal endeavors. So it can be watching Wicked. I booked my Belgium trip. It can also be past tense where it's like, oh, if I need to remember when I booked my trip, I have to write it here. I also would write things like laundry or other things that I might forget to do that not necessarily are personal, but it's like, you know, it's kind of like a random list of things that I really need to do in a week. I don't know if that's very sensible to say. I'm also here to say that like my planner isn't 100% accurate, you know. Sometimes I'll forget about a task. And you're probably wondering like, Abby, how does this work in conjunction with this one? What I actually do is I write most of it here before I move on to this, because this is like the general overview of my week, and then from there I expand it to here. Does that make sense? Like for every task here, it has to be expound on my catch-all planner because this space is not enough to really say what exact task I have to do, right? So I just put in like my top 3 tasks so it's easier for me to not feel overwhelmed, which I think I get overwhelmed a lot on Mondays all the time. So I'm trying to work on that. And then here on the right side, I'm working on this idea of like putting like 3 tasks a day. And then usually the red ones are like deadlines. For example, filming day. Sometimes I'll write admin day and things like that. Or like if I have to buy something like postage stamps, I have to submit a video for checking, I have to post this and that. And from there, I also write down like 3 things that I really need to finish that day. But regardless of that, the more complex tasks, meaning like subtasks or other things that need to be more fleshed out, like for example, if I have to film a 2024 journaling wrap video for Patreon and I have to write stuff about this particular video, it's gonna exist on my catch-all planner. That's where I kind of brainstorm. Does that make sense? This is like a summary, and then I use the catch-all planner to kind of write stuff down. Since it's small and compact, I also don't run the risk of writing too much and not being able to do the tasks. Sometimes I have like post-its like these where it's like, I think this was the week where I was like, some friends are on holiday, I need to figure out when they're back, and then we can schedule meetups and stuff. So for me, this is an easier way to kind of navigate how my week goes. And all the time, if I'm traveling, this one comes with me. I think I also brought this to the US. It just comes with me because it's so lightweight and I can always just toss things that I don't need. Let's look at my to-dos. So one thing I also do is if I have meetings and I don't have any other notebook with me, I just use my plotter because I know that these notes are not final. Then I can just transfer them to wherever they need to be, whether it's through typed out on Notion or like fleshed out on my catch-all planner. But most of the time, these are notes that I might need to revisit. That's why they're still here, like Skillshare info, visa permit renewal stuff. You know, I had a meeting with my lawyer and then we were like talking about things that we need. And I might toss them at some point, but before I toss them, it's nice to have them live here. And then anytime I need to refer back, I can always refer back here. This is just a regular 2mm dot grid. And what I love about this also is, you know, it's a bit flexible. You can always just tear things out or rearrange it. For example, during Black Friday, I was like, I needed to buy a couple of things for friends. And then I needed to order something. Where does it get shipped to? Where does it order go? it's just my way of like making sense of things that I need to do. But I want to say maybe most of my personal errands also come here because it's just easier to refer back to. And I would say this one is like 90% work, and this one is more like a mix of work and personal, because there's not much personal errands that I really have except the usual things of like paying rent, doing laundry, meeting up with friends, working out. But everything else is a bit more centered around the work that I do, which is really complex and hard to kind of make sense of. So yeah, it just carried over, and I really like how I developed the habit of just using this all the time. It's easy to grab and go. It's not so difficult to develop a habit of using this plotter. I had thought long and hard if I wanted to get a Bible size, but then I realized that the narrow is actually really compact, and I also don't know if I want to get a mini or a mini 5. But right now, I feel like this really was like a good transition, and it downsized because size-wise, it's not that different. And also, I'm saying this that it fits my lifestyle because I just have a really tiny handwriting. I think that works in my favor. So yeah, this is basically how I've kind of navigated the year, and I think moving forward for 2025, I'm really excited because I was able to get the monthly and weekly for 2025 for my plotter. So I'll do a video on that to set it up in the future, and my new accessories. And my catch-all planner is coming with me for 2025. That's all I have for my planning system. I'm pretty happy about it. I thought about, you know, if I should log my health and things like that, but I think I'm gonna do that with the monthly view and then log my workouts. So far that's how I've been envisioning planning my 2025, and looking back at how the planning system I developed in 2024 was. I'm pretty happy about this system, and I'm glad that I decided to switch it up for my own advantage and for my own good. So yeah, that's me and my very yappy �゛𝚘𝚔 for the planner edition. For the journals, we'll talk about that in a future video, but I hope you enjoyed seeing how my brain works in the analog context. And yes, there's no stationery. It's really just like, I think this is the most Capricorn I can get because I like to plan and I like to get the plans across. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you on the next one. Have a great rest of 2024 and have a lovely 2025 ahead. Bye!